Good morning. Welcome to the Allegheny Highlands Regional Library. I'm Becky Scott, a staff member here at the library, and this is Cooking by the Book. Today we're going to make crock pot potato soup. And a crock pot or a slow cooker is one of my favorite kitchen tools when it comes to cooking something, because you basically throw it together and it does the work itself. And I'm a messy cook and I'm also a lazy cook, so I like anything like that. Crock pot potato soup is an excellent soup to have in the wintertime when it's cold and dreary, but it's also a pretty good soup that you can use in the summertime and serve it cold if you like cold potatoes, which I happen to. To start out, you're going to set your crock pot on high and you're going to spray it with cooking spray, which I always do because it makes the cleanup so much better. So I've already sprayed my crock pot with cooking spray and put 2 ribs of celery diced and 2 carrots in there, and you're going to make the pieces about 1 inch. You also are going to cut your potato pieces about 1 inch in diameter because you want it to cook evenly. If you have uneven pieces, then some will cook up too much and some will be a little tough. That's hard for me because when it comes to peeling potatoes and carrots, they're not exactly symmetrical, so it's hard to figure out how to do it. So we have in our sprayed crock pot, we have a 1/2 cup of chopped onion, which is about 1/2 of an average size onion. It so happened that I have onions in the garden now, so I just pulled 3 smaller ones and chopped them. And then you have to do a lot of potatoes. This is 8 cups of potatoes, which is, if you have fairly large potatoes, probably about 8 large potatoes. Again, unless you buy the really large ones, all of them are not going to be the same size. So I usually measure on this, although truthfully it doesn't matter. If you like more potatoes, add more potatoes. If you want less potatoes and more soup, don't use as many potatoes. Now to the veggies, we're going to start out with a teaspoon of salt and just sprinkle it over. When the soup cooks after about 4 hours on high, I like to taste a potato and see if there's enough salt, because we're using chicken broth in it, and this is reduced sodium chicken broth, so you don't want as much salt. But if you were using the full sodium, you would use even less. Sometimes I'll go back and add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt to it, but it's, again, the best thing to do is taste. You can always add more salt at the end. You can't take any away. To that, you're going to add a 32-ounce container, 2 pounds of chicken broth, and again, I use the reduced sodium. And you just dump it over top, and I try to dump it on top of the salt to sort of disperse the salt. So I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of butter. You can cut it into pieces, but it's going to cook up. And then you need to add about 2 cups of water, and I've already measured it out to save time. And you can add pepper now to taste. I tend to like to add the pepper after everything's cooked. I like to see the flecks, and sometimes when you cook it through, they kind of get lost. So you just stir it up well, and you are going to cover it with your lid and cook it on high for about 4 to 5 hours. Now, if you prefer, like for instance, if you're going to work and you're going to be gone about 8 hours and you want to have it good and hot when you get home, then you can cook it on low, and that takes 8 to 10 hours. To make it creamy or creamier, you just simply add a block of cream cheese. This is 8 ounces of cream cheese. The last hour, you remove the lid and you just break this up into pieces. I set the cream cheese out an hour or so ahead of time so it's warmer, and that helps it to break up better. And you stir and stir and stir and stir and stir until the cream cheese is totally absorbed in the hot liquid. Now, another thing you don't want to do while the potato soup is cooking is don't take the lid off your crock pot. Not until after the 4th hour if you're cooking it on high. For every time that you lift the lid on the crock pot has to cook about an extra 15 minutes to be accurate. So it's a good idea not to take the lid off. That's where I sprinkle in the black pepper, and you let it, again, you stir it completely until the cream cheese is melted. You put the lid back on and you let it cook for about another hour, and then you take it out and serve it, and it's an excellent hearty soup that'll stick to your ribs, as my mom would say. If you tend to like things added to your soup, A handful of cheddar cheese shredded on top is always a good thing to add. And you know, bacon makes everything better. Sliced green onions are also good. This is a very versatile soup that you can add a lot of things to. Serve it with some oyster crackers or a piece of buttered bread, and you've just about got a meal. So that's it for crock pot potato soup. Hope you enjoyed it, and join us the next time. Thank you.